Imagine paying $1,000 a month and owning a home in 3 years. Especially if you're tired of wasting rent money, month after month, year after year, with nothing to show for it. Let me show you where to find these rent-to-own deals right now. Hey, it's Rinde from AskRinde, and I've helped thousands of families all across the US go from rent to own, even with low credit and limited savings. Today, I'm breaking down the real numbers, locations, and showing you how to start for less. And if you stay till the end, I'll show you how to access our full list, what we call our happy list of rent-to-own homes for $1,000 and less. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the exact steps of how to qualify for these homes and start your process using grants, forgivable funding, and other sources to start your rent-to-own. So what are $1,000 rent-to-own homes? So these are single-family homes, townhouses, duplexes in working-class neighborhoods. Now, speaking from experience, they usually cost about $150,000, but can go up as high as $450,000 or more. And the typical lease structure of these homes is 2 to 3 years. And while you're in the home, you're preparing to actually purchase the property based on the purchase price. So with rent to own, as I've shared here many times on my channel, in our rent to own community, it's all about how you negotiate the rent to own deal. This is why you can actually be in a very nice neighborhood, in a really beautiful house, and it's rent to own, and you're paying $1,000 or less to live in that home. Now, some homes require an option fee, which are completely negotiable and can be from 1 to 5% of the purchase price, or even include the first and the last month's rent. Now, where are these $1,000 rent-to-own homes located? Well, $1,000 rent-to-own homes are located everywhere based on your location. So I'll give you some sample cities with active inventory right now. They include Birmingham, Alabama, Cleveland, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. Now, these are just part of the markets in the top 25 markets for rent-to-own homes. Now, $1,000 rent-to-own homes are located more in some states than others, but they're located everywhere based on the location and based on how you structure your rent-to-own. And in these houses and in these locations, $1,000 a month isn't just rent, it's actually a path to home ownership. So an example will be this house. So let's just break down what $1,000 a month rent-to-own looks like. So the purchase price for this property is $120,000. And as I shared earlier, the option fee is completely negotiable and can be anywhere from 1 to 5% of the purchase price. So for example, if we're able to negotiate a 1% option fee for this $120,000 house, that will be $1,200 that we'll need to have set aside for an option fee on this property. For our monthly rent, we're looking at $1,000. Now, generally with rent to own, you will be responsible for everything that has to do with the property as far as utilities. Remember, this is actually your path and your beginning process to test out and experience home ownership. And what comes along with home ownership is utility bills, extra bills outside of your rent or your mortgage. So in this case, you would actually be responsible for paying the electricity bill, the gas bill. You would also be responsible for paying the water and the maintenance of the house. Sometimes, depending on how you negotiate it, they may actually be responsible for the landscaping, but you have to have the mentality that everything is going to be on you when it comes to taking on the property, because you are starting the process of home ownership. So it's no longer just paying rent. You're going to be paying the rent of $1,000, but you're also going to have the responsibility of taking care of the utilities, making sure that the curb appeal of the house is really appealing, because curb appeal can generally add about 50% to your home's value over time. So you always want to maintain a good look of your curb appeal. And you want to make sure, of course, that the taxes are paid, that the water is paid, that the sewer is paid, and in some cases, depending on your location, you may be responsible for paying for garbage disposal or garbage removal, garbage pickup, depending on the area. So these are actually all things that we go in depth when we help you with your monthly breakdown in our rent-to-own community, to help you understand what you're actually going to be facing every single month when it comes to owning a rent-to-own home, how much you need to be able to maintain monthly your rent-to-own home. And the terms for a property like this, we like to see at least 3 years, because it takes time for you to actually get into the rent-to-own home, start to build your credit, and actually also prepare yourself so you can get grants and also forgivable funding, so that you actually are able to have money, free money that you don't have to pay back, to help you pay for closing costs and actually secure the property. is a win all around because you're in the house, and depending on the market, you have equity appreciation, so the property is going up in value. Now, by the time you're actually going to close on the property 3 years later, 2 to 3 years later, you have equity appreciation, but you also are in a position because you've been in the property, knowing the property, experiencing it, fixing it up, but also positioning yourself so you can actually get grants and also forgivable funding, and also access the best loan and mortgage packages to be able to buy the property. And as I shared in my last video, there are city-based home ownership programs that you can actually connect with your rent-to-own to make it more affordable to acquire the rent-to-own. So speaking from experience, I can tell you that rent-to-own can change your entire life. It can actually set you up, and this is actually a tool not just to buy your first property or to buy your property to live in. You can use rent-to-own to invest. So there are duplexes that you can get for $2,000 a month or less. There are homes that you can get in A-class neighborhood, B-class neighborhoods that you can move into for $1,000, depending on your know-how of how to structure rent-to-own. So to help you with your $1,000 a month rent-to-own home, there are housing trust funds as well as neighborhood stabilization grants and programs. So these actual programs target areas that have high foreclosures, but also areas that are experiencing high loan rates. So there are some lenders that are actually just jacking up the rates in specific areas. Sometimes they are actually taking coverage that they've actually paid out on in other parts of the country and then tasking other areas that don't have like wildfires or have natural disasters, but they're just raising the rates. So that's where you have to balance it, because sometimes when you're buying your property and you're going through home ownership, you'll experience this. You need to make sure that you pay very close attention to your insurance, because the insurance carriers and these companies that are actually giving out insurance, they're just raising the rates. So they may have to pay out in California or Florida based on a natural disaster, and you may be in New Jersey or somewhere that's not affected, but you'll find out because there's that company actually does business in multiple states. They're trying to spread their risk and actually task you with it. So these are things that we actually help you in the rent-to-own community to make sure that you look out for when you're actually going through the process. But this is why there's neighborhood stabilization grants as well as programs to help you to secure the home. So if you're in the property and you're going to be in there to up to 3 years and going through that process of preparing to buy it, we help you actually with all these different sources, whether it's going to be housing trust funds. We help you with forgivable loan programs that you can actually use to be able to not only buy the property, cover your closing costs, but also use these to be able to make the house really affordable. The focus is on making housing affordable for families, making sure that you understand that there's a way to strategize based on the location, based on how you structure your rent-to-own to be able to get into these properties. So many of the neighborhood stabilization grant and programs are looking for families to help them get into affordable housing. Families that have household incomes from 120% of the area's median income to experiencing 80% of the area's median income. And it fluctuates, as I shared earlier and as I shared in my last video, that there are grants in many states, in every state, for you to be able to utilize and attach to your rent-to-own to make it more affordable. So for example, in Memphis, there's the Welcome Home Grant, which is a $20,000 grant that you can actually use that you do not have to pay back. This is for low to moderate income families, and these are ones that we actually use to be able to get rent-to-own homes in that city. They also have a second program in Memphis, which is the Great Choice program, but this actually comes onto the property as a second mortgage. So it's typically 5% of the purchase price, but then you actually have that attached to the property and it stays on there for the life of the loan, the amortization schedule. So generally your amortization schedule is going to be about 30 years, so it'll stay on the loan as a second mortgage for the length of that loan for up to 30 years. So because cost of living is so expensive, groceries, utilities, also where people live, which is the biggest concern that most of us have, whether it's going to be our mortgage or whether it's going to be what we pay for rent and our overhead, where the roof over our head, that's our biggest expense and our biggest concern. Everyone works and people work every single day going to work just to be able to keep a roof over their head. So the biggest need for everyone is how to live affordably. So in this case, we're talking about a $1,000 a month rent-to-own home that you can add a $20,000 grant for to purchase, and you're in the property while you're building equity. It's a win all around. So if you'd like to learn more about how to get started in rent-to-own, how to find these locations that you can find these properties in, or you can actually just simply check out our happy list of $1,000 a month rent-to-own homes. We have 6 days left for the rent-to-own challenge. You can actually join us and join our rent-to-own community so you can start to actually see the possibilities that are in your location, in your area. The happy list is actually a happy list because it's an affordable homes list and everybody wants to live affordably. That's the key, where cost of living is so high all around the country. And in the community, we're taking you step by step of how to start your rent to own. We're going to be going over daily strategies for rent to own, how to find them, the locations for rent to own affordably, and also our properties list that includes single family homes, townhomes, duplex properties, and more. We're also sharing scripts for sellers, how to negotiate that option fee down, because the more you negotiate the option fee, the more affordably it's going to be, like the property that I showed you that has a $1,200 option fee. Also, we give you direct access links to housing grants, forgivable funding sources that you can use to be able to purchase the property and pay your closing costs, get your closing costs covered when you buy your rent-to-own home. So the properties are available. What are you waiting for? So if you'd like to check out our happy list of $1,000 a month rent-to-own homes, and also our top 25 rent-to-own market wheel, make sure you check out the link in the description below and actually start in our rent-to-own community today. We have 6 days left in this current challenge for you to get in on our happy list and start to access $1,000 rent-to-own homes and other rent-to-own homes in your area. We give you a link that's a free link to a 30-day trial to be able to actually see how you can actually find rent-to-own homes and options in your area for affordable living. If you're paying rent, you're losing thousands. Stop paying rent and start owning real houses, real deals that you drive past every single day. So I look forward to seeing you in the community before the challenge closes in the next 6 days. So if you have any questions, you can also email me at AskRindeNetwork@gmail.com. And make sure you check out this next video because we share more with you about rent-to-own locations and where you can actually find rent-to-own homes in your area. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.